Hi everyone and welcome to our fourth NAB business webinar. My name is Denton Pugh and I have the great privilege of leading the NAB small business banking team across Australia, looking after more than 200,000 small business customers from all metropolitan cities. As the largest business bank in the country, we wanted to play a role in helping businesses get the most out of their digital capability. And we really hope you enjoy and get value from the series of webinars that we put together. This session is going to be a really interesting one, and we have one of the best brand leaders in the country lined up to teach you all about how to build your brand, a skill that is absolutely vital, particularly in the current environment. Your questions are welcome throughout the webinar, so please use the question and answer function at the bottom, and we'll have time at the end to answer your questions. Before I hand over to Sarah, here's some information about how you can contact us if you need any help. If you call this number 13 4708, you can speak directly to one of my small business bankers, or you can set up an appointment over the phone, over Zoom, or face-to-face at a convenient time and location to you. We also have a dedicated hub on nab.com.au for our small business community. And here you'll find tools, guides, and product information to help you through any stage of your business. Just simply visit nab.com.au/smallbusinesshub. So without further delay, we'd like to introduce our presenter for this session, Sarah Skeets from Business of Brand, known as Bob. Sarah is renowned for her global experience in brand and marketing. She's a global partner of Bob and the Managing Director of Bob Australia. Sarah has delivered record-breaking acquisition, retention, and brand campaigns with leading global and national brands, including Microsoft, Telstra, and also as the head of brand here at NAB. Transferring her knowledge into the entrepreneur space, Sarah incorporates her strategic thinking and experience to support the growth of private enterprises who are looking for a smarter approach to achieving business goals and revenue through the power of brand. Sarah has worked with hundreds of businesses and business leaders globally, helping them to grow and step into their potential through brand-led growth. Sarah, I'm really looking forward to this session. Over to you. Let's get started.
Thanks so much, Denton. I'm super excited to be here and back with NAB. I'm so pleased you guys have put this series on as well. It's such a relevant time, and we've been working with, like you said, hundreds of businesses since COVID hit, helping them look at what are the trends that are happening in the market, especially around digital being an on and offline space, and being able to build your brand and continue to grow in this environment. So let's get into it. So today I'm going to talk to you about what even is brand. I hear a lot of different terms of what brand is. Often people will come to me and say, oh, I've done my brand because I have a logo and I've got my colors. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to talk about why it's important to start with your brand, especially now, especially when we're looking at how we take our businesses from an offline to an online space. I'm going to look at some online trends that are influencing brands and what's important when building a brand strategy. And finally, I'm going to finish off with some really handy tips that you can look at when you're building out how do you want to communicate your brand. It's a really interesting time when you're taking your brand from an offline space to an online space and taking it from being you being the brand to having to be represented online. So I'll talk you through some case studies there as well. Okay, so to start off, brand versus branding. These terms, I hear them used interchangeably. Often people will say branding when they mean brand and brand when they mean branding. So just to clear it up so you know what I'm talking about through this presentation, because I probably will say the word a lot. Branding is, like I said, it's the logo, it's the colors, it's the marketing, the website design, it's all the ways that the brand is represented. And it's a really important part of the brand, but it's not the part that I'm going to be talking to you about today. First of all, brand, I'm going to give you our definition of brand. It's the end-to-end of the entire revenue system in the business. So brand isn't just a function that sits over, in marketing and it's a marketing tagline. it actually has to be brought down into every single area of your business. You need to live your brand and breathe your brand. And I'm going to show you how to actually build with starting with brand, and then how you can take that online. Okay, so start with brand. My business partner, I have a business partner up in Brisbane, Tim Dwyer, and he always laughs because whenever I ask the question, the answer is always brand. We also have business partners in London, our founders, Lindsay Boyd and Darren Sherlaw, and I'll probably talk about them a little bit through the presentation as well. And what we do differently is Lindsay and I bring the brand side, and Tim and Darren bring the business building side. So how do we actually, when I build brands and work with people to create growth, you can create very fast growth through brand. But if you don't have your business structures formed in the right way, then that, it can be quite dangerous. You know, you can actually topple a business over. So I'm going to show you the IP that we work with people to start with their brand and how they build that into their business. So this is a model that looks at income and equity. So within a business, there's short-term income and long-term income, and short-term equity and long-term equity. Now, all businesses, whether you're a product business, whether you're a sales business, whether you're a service business, all businesses have to sell stuff. You can't get away with not selling something when you're in a business. So every business has sales. And this is a typical, what I'm talking about now is kind of a typical business experience that we see. So everyone will have sales, and when they have sales and you have to get up every morning and you have to sell, then I normally ask the room and I'll say, you know, how does it make you feel? And most people will say it's quite an anxious feeling having to sell every single day. The other thing we generally have, businesses have, is a brand, and that's the brand sits in the long-term equity bucket. And it becomes long-term equity when you can sell your business. And I'll often say to business owners, do you want to sell your business? And the answer they'll give me is, I hope so. And when they say, I hope so, I start to get the feeling that maybe they're not quite confident that they will be able to. So they're in a feeling of hopefulness and anxiousness. And this is a typical business. And most people at this point say, you're in my head. So I'm going to show you how we actually build it out and change the emotions of business and change the emotions around your brand. But first of all, how we do that is we look at what is your business today. So now is such a good time to do it because COVID has hit and changed. So many things has changed. Trends have changed. Supply chains for our businesses have changed. We're having to move online. So you have your today business, but what we do is we look at where is the brand tomorrow, but where's the future brand? What's the big vision for the brand? And that's where we want to build the brand down from. So I'll show you how that works. So once we get the big vision of the brand, and for so many businesses, our business included, we've had to move so quickly and we used to run face-to-face schools, and I used to fly all around the world. We're in UK, America, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, and do face-to-face work with business owners face-to-face. And recently we've taken all of that online. So we equally have had to move quickly. But we had this vision about where we were taking online, and we sat down and we worked out what our brand was going to be. Once you're clear about that, you're able to move over into the short-term equity box, which is here. And this is your products. So once you're clear about what is the brand, we're now taking the brand online, well, that opens up a whole new range of being able to create product. And when you have products, then you can start to do deals, and you can start to what I call lumpy money. You know, you could do a big special, or you could create a whole program, or whatever it is in your business. And every business can do this, whether it's a solopreneur up to, you know, a large organization. And when you build product into your business, that's when it starts to get exciting. And when I say product, of course we all have a product or a service, but it's looking at building it out from that future brand. And you start to see all these new opportunities for your brand, and that starts to feel really exciting. Then we move down to the long-term income box, and we're looking at channel. And channel is, when we talk about channel, it's how you go to market. It could be, for us, it could be partnerships. So it's people who actually come and say, hey, we've got people who would love your services. Maybe we can do a deal and we can work together. And what that gives us is security. So we feel secure because we're not going to have to go out every single morning and feeling anxious that we need to sell, which is the last box down here. Of course, we need to sell. Sales is really important. But what we want to do is change that anxious feeling to feeling calm. So when you have your products in place and you can create your channels, then you're going to feel much calmer. And when we say, do you want to sell your business? You'd be quite confident that you're going to be able to sell this business because you've now got that structure within the business. Now, what I would like to do is talk about some online trends. And this is important as well, because when I talk about start with brand and how you change the emotions around brand, we need to bring this in and look at how we do that with the trends that are happening. When I'm building brands, trends are one of the most important things that I'm looking at. I'm always trying to, I talked about that future brand. I'm always trying to look at, well, what's happening today, or what happened in the past? What's happening today in my industry? How do I move that thinking out further? And then how do we find the gap in the industry to build our businesses into? And online is a really important one, obviously. So in the past, 1996, 2006, what I've done here is overlaid, how did brands become famous? So it was a very different era. This is the pre-digital era. So we were offline. We used to have communities, we're completely offline. And it was very hard to build our brands or our personal brands because the only access out to market into people's homes or into their lives was through TV, was through media fame. So newspapers, magazines, reality TV shows. Chrissy Swan is a great example of somebody who went on to Big Brother and she became famous through Big Brother and was able to then go on and do different things. And it's interesting when we look at businesses, we weren't able to really connect like we can today in that offline era. Then we came into online was introduced. So 2006, massive change for everyone, and brands would have been doing a big spin to catch up then. And this is where we really went online, and this is the virtual communities. But what we found is that people went so into virtual communities, but now realize that actually we need both on and offline. But what was interesting in this era was YouTube fame. So brands could become famous simply by being online. People could become famous simply by being online. Zuella is a great example. I'm not sure if anyone knows of Zuella. So she was a young girl who was doing makeup tutorials in her bedroom, and she reached millions and millions of people and became quite a big name. Justin Bieber, just playing guitar in his bedroom, discovered, and look at him now. And now, so what we did, and this was a few years ago when we started looking at these trends, we were looking at, well, what's next? So like I said, it's the on and offline era. And we found that people had gone online, but really needed that connection, really needed to be able to connect both face-to-face and in an online space. It's what we call a connected earth. And Google fame is now really how people are becoming well known. And it's not famous in terms of, you know, I want to be famous. It's what do I want to be known for? And if anyone who came here tonight probably would have gone and Googled either me or my business. And what we found from researching is that people actually do Google the person first before they'll Google the business. So a little exercise that you could do is go and Google yourself, and go and Google your brand and see what comes up, because that's where people are looking to find information on your business and on your brand. So you want to look and see, what is the story that is being told about you online today? If you've never tried to influence it or curate it in any way, it's a really interesting process to go through, because that's what your customers are doing. Your customers are Googling you and they're Googling your business. So we want to make sure that we can actually build a brand story in that online space. The other really important thing about being off and online, and this does come back to marketing a little bit, is we now really do need that engaged community space. So as businesses, I started my business 5 years ago. I know every dollar matters, and we don't want to be spending and wasting money on stuff that's not going to work. And what I knew was that when you go out and spend money on marketing, you're spending money and you're attracting them in. And then as long as you're spending the money, they'll buy whatever it is you're offering. And then that will drop off back to the BAU level. And then it'll go up and drop back and up and drop back. And I realized that what we needed to do was create an engaged community. So you go out to them once and attract them in to your community. So you don't need to go out and keep finding those people. They're already in your community, and wherever that is that you hold it. What that means is that whenever you have something you want to talk to them about, they're already there and you're not having to spend money on that. So think about where your customers are and how you can create a community for your customers. I'm just going to stop and see if we've got any questions coming through. Okay, all good. Do feed in questions. I love questions. I love feedback. So any thoughts that you've got, let me know. Okay, this is another trend I wanted to take you through. And this one is super important, given we are now in the on and offline space. As a marketer for so many years, what I do is look at what's happened in the past. So I'm going to take you back to the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. And it's the era of how. We've called it the how era. And the reason we've called it the how era is it was the era of product. So product, in this era, we didn't have many products. So products sold themselves. It wasn't, oh, wow, we've got this whole range. It was like, wow, look at this one TV. And people were like, oh, TV, that's amazing. I'll have the TV. And all you had to do was talk about how the product worked, and you were attracting people to your brand. And that worked for so long, but as trends do, we moved on. And we moved into the 70s, 80s and 90s. And this became the era of the what era. And it was all about choice. So suddenly a lot more products are in the market, and it's about the image that those products were giving the consumer. So it wasn't one pair of shoes, it was all these different shoes, and which image did I want to buy. Then we moved up to the 90s, 2000, 2010, and often when I'm in a room talking to lots of people, I'll ask people to put their hands up and say, who knows Simon Sinek? And I can tell you every time, except for once I did a big accounting conference, not many people did, but 95% of people know who Simon Sinek is. And he wrote a book called It Starts With Why. And it's all about purpose, and it's all about positioning. And it's very important. It's a brilliant book, and it's very important. But what I know is when I ask rooms and everyone knows who it is, that trend has broken. So although a lot of people are still thinking we're in that era, we're actually not. We've moved on, and we've come into a new era. And most people, actually, I'll talk about that in a minute. So we're in the new era, and the era is the who era. And it's a really, really important important takeaway from this presentation. The who era is because digital has come in and we're in the digital space. We have to be able to connect with our audience in the way that we would have before face to face, but we need to be able to do it in a digital space. And what that means is we have to understand the full emotional journey of your client. And I'll give you an example. Let's take a real estate agent, say. So a real estate agent who sells houses. Now they might just look at, I sell the house and I do the internet and we do the home opens and the house is sold. Brilliant. But what I talked to, and it was actually a client came through who was a real estate agent, is understand the whole journey that a client would go through from the minute that they start to think about, I think I might want to sell my house, to the minute that they move into their new house. And you might not be the only person in that journey. You might not be the only supplier or brand in that journey. There might be, all these other brands, and that's okay. But if you can understand that full emotional journey and you can convey that to them, then they know that you're the person for them. And I'm going to show you a little video shortly, not yet, about that. First, before I do that, what I wanted to do is explain the really important building blocks for building your brand strategy. And I'm just going to check. I've just seen a couple of questions have come in. Oh, great question. Okay. When I'm globally branding myself, is having a LinkedIn profile enough, or should I have Twitter, a website, or something else too? Brilliant question. Okay, I'll answer that first before we go into this. So when you're branding yourself, so when you're creating a personal brand, you really need to be able to manage your Google fame. So what I would get you to do is go and Google yourself and see what comes up. So the more places that you can get it's like a little spider on Google that goes out. I'm sure that the digital team at NAB could tell you more about it, but the little spider goes out onto the internet and finds all the places that mention you, and they pull it all in and collate it for you. So if you Google yourself, if you Googled me, you would go and you'd see, and went to images, you'd see, that first page, you'd see lots of me on there. And that's because I've done lots of speaking or, lots of different social media channels. I don't do Twitter, like that's not a thing for me, but you can still build your Google fame without having to do all those channels. My two business partners in the UK, Lindsay and Darren. Lindsay is so social. She's on all platforms and she loves it and it comes naturally to her. Darren is what we would call antisocial, and he creates IP for our business, and he would love to sit in a room and create IP all day. Yet, if you Google Lindsay Boyd, LINZI BOYD, and if you Google Darren Sherlaw, what you would see is that they both have a personal brand profile. And that's because he decided he was going to do it through videos and through speaking from stage. But if you're starting off in building personal brand, I would recommend having different channels so that that Google spider can go out and find you. Okay, I just saw there was one more question. Okay, great question. Love questions, thank you. There are so many ads and messages in market now. How do I make sure I stand out? I'm going to answer that for you in about 3 minutes. So hold on that one. And actually what I'm about to move on to, which is the building the brand strategy, leads to how you stand out. And one other thing before I flip off this one, this is going to help answer it as well. So what you can see down the bottom here is company brands B2C and B2B, and people brands B2P. Now, I want you to think about your websites. On your website, do you lead with your products and do you lead with your benefits? And if you do, then you're still really marketing and taking yourself out to market back here. What I'm going to show you how to do is actually go to market with the purpose and go to market with the who. And this is about people brands. Today it's about business to people. It's just, we're all people. And I'm going to take you through the steps that you would do to be able to do that. And one more question. As a startup business in mortgage broking business, is LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, website, Insta marketing more than enough, or shall we continue to do traditional marketing too? Excellent question. And more importantly, how to manage it, as it needs a full-time staff or two just to manage these above. Mentioned itself. Okay, yes. So as I said, you don't need all of those. I would choose a couple and do them really well. So you might need to outsource. Don't get full-time employees for it. If you're a small business, there's plenty of people who can do amazing social media work. But I would choose a couple of channels and just do them really well to start off with. That's what I did for my business. I chose Instagram and Facebook, and obviously LinkedIn from a personal perspective. Okay, and last question, what if my Google fame is not quite aligned with my business? E.g., I'm great at behind the scenes stuff, strategy and accounting, but this is not where I want to direct people. I want them to head to the core of the business. Yes, okay. So often people will find that their Google fame is not fully aligned, but it's an opportunity for you to align it, because I think that in today's world, especially the digital world, it's so important for your personal brand can act as a channel, such a massive channel into your business. And your business can act as a massive channel into you. So people have found me through coming into Bob, but people have found Bob through me being a big channel for them. So it can take a little while. Like, this isn't, when I'm talking about strategy, this isn't like quick stuff that you're gonna be able to do by next week. So keep that in mind as well, so you don't get frustrated. All right, I'm gonna move us on to these building blocks when you're building brand strategy. So there's 3 key elements I'm going to talk about. So I've talked about the who are you talking to and what are they feeling? So if I can give you some tips when you leave here, work out that emotional journey of your who. Understand how they feel at each point. So I worked out what is the emotional journey of an entrepreneur. And how can I communicate that to them? The second building block is your purpose. What do you want to be known for? So like I said, we were in the purpose era, and we've even moved on from there. It's still a really important building block for your business, especially now. The world has changed and people are looking for they want to vote with their money. They want the brands they're supporting to have an impact. And that is how you stand out from all the other people who are going into market selling their products and their services. You don't even talk about your products and services. What we're doing is pulling the market in, so brand led, through these 3 elements. And this is the third element, is your asset. And I call it a campaignable asset. So what is unique? What is your unique element that makes what you do so good? What is it about you? And often people can't find their own asset. This is what I find people get stumped on the most, but it's actually the most obvious thing. But you think it's not an asset because it comes so easily to you. And that's why you're doing what you're doing, and you're doing it really well. So what we want to do is combine all those 3 elements, the who, the purpose and the asset, really need to be able to connect in together. And that's what is going to pull the market towards you. So this is what we call pull marketing rather than push marketing. Push marketing down here is sales-led marketing. And sales-led marketing is when you're talking about your products and talking about your benefits of your products. So if you're going out talking about those things, then you are pushing yourself and pushing your brand onto people. And I'm not saying that you don't do that at all. There is still a place, of course, to go and sell and talk about your products and benefits. But if you're not doing the pull element and pulling the market in towards you, then your people are going to turn off so quickly, especially now, and especially with this online environment. I'm going to show you a video about, in 1 second, I'm going to show you a video. This is a client that we worked with in the UK, and the video that we created pulls in the who, the purpose, and the asset, and that's all it's talking about. And when they came into the school, this is a bunch of engineers, very dry, and it took them quite a long time to get their head around brand and where we're moving to. But they really connected in with their purpose, which is engineering a better society. And we created this video and have taken it out to market. And I'm going to show you the video and then I'll tell you afterwards. So if we can play that video.
There was a time we championed engineers. But have we come to take our engineers for granted? From inspiration to realization, big ideas need ingenious execution. Why do we build? Is it to shelter, protect, educate, to heal, to grow? And how do we measure a building's success? Its cost, its capacity, or the quality of the lived experience, the connections it fosters, the social harmony it creates? Engineering, the framework of our built environment, the cradle in which all of our ideas are conceived, nurtured, fueled, and realized. Elliott Wood helps you see the unseen, to reveal the opportunity, materialize the bigger asset, and identify how it can impact society. Rooted in the integrity of intention, nurtured with perceptive design-led engineering solutions, brought to bloom with breathtaking materials that don't cost the earth. The earth. We've been thinking this way for years. Taller buildings may not make us taller, but smarter buildings do allow us to see beyond the horizons we impose on ourselves. Engineers think differently. We see the unseen. We take an idea and flip it. Together, we can craft better buildings, bridge the wide divide, sculpt our skylines, and help inform the policies that shape them. Let's reveal the unseen and shape a better, a more inclusive world. Elliott Wood. Engineering a better society.
Okay. Right, so what did we notice with that? I hope you noticed that we did not speak about products and we didn't speak about benefits. We talked about what is important to them. We talked about engineering a better society, about how they know what they're giving and what their impact is in the world. And when they launched this, he was quite nervous because obviously it's quite a different approach to take. And I said, first of all, you have to launch this internally, whether it's one person in your business or you're a large organization. Every person needs to understand what it is and be able to talk about your purpose and your who and your asset. So we launched it internally and he got on stage and did it and launched it and got a standing ovation from engineers. And I'm married to one, so I can say this. It takes a lot for them to get quite emotional, but they said it was the first time they felt that they were able to connect in to the amazing stuff that they do and the amazing work that they do. And they were able to go and take that out to their networks. And suddenly this video has been watched thousands and thousands and thousands of times because it has gone just out through their channels and through their people, because their people are channels. So their people started sending it out. And then their suppliers started sending it out. And it's a really different way to get noticed. Now, there are different levels of video production. It doesn't have to be a high-end video production. We've done all sorts of levels for different size businesses. It's just got to have the emotion in it. So just take that as the takeaway. Okay. All right, I'm just going to talk about now communicating your brand. So we've talked about the key elements of the strategy that you need to build. Once you've built those, then we need to take the brand out as well. There's a question here. This ad is great, but what does it mean for small businesses? Is it feasible? I might have just answered that. Yes, it is feasible. It absolutely is feasible. This one was probably a higher production quality because what we wanted to hero in there is the buildings that they have worked on in London. But I've worked with lots of small businesses. We've just produced one actually for Melbourne Public, who's a pub just down in Docklands near NAB. And you can do it in different ways. So you can, instead of having to film anything, you can actually use stock imagery. As long as you get the emotion in there, the script is the most important thing. So we get lots of small business and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs working with us. Had a legal firm, I'm based in Adelaide now, come in and work with us, and she just looked at what we'd done and wrote her own script. So some of our videos that we created, wrote her own script and got it produced at a really, really reasonable budget. But it is an investment, but it will last for a really long time because your who, your purpose and your asset, they're not things that change every day or every year. You know, they really are long-term things. So once you invest in it once, you're then able to use it for years, because that video they've actually been using now for 4 years and it's still like new. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, I'm going to just talk about creating your brand voice and the importance of having a brand voice. So what is a tone of voice? When we create brands, I talked about the branding at the very beginning, and that is the look and feel of the brand. But when the brand goes online, it needs to also have a voice, and not just through the spoken word, but how the tone that is within the language that brand uses. If you think of Qantas and you think of Virgin, their tone of voice is actually the thing that set them apart. So Qantas, more corporate maybe, a little bit more towing the line, whereas Virgin, although they tried to go into the corporate market, you know, there was that was light and fun, and it had energy, and it was cheeky, and it challenged. It was a challenger brand. So we wanted to create a tone of voice for your brands, especially if you've got more than one person, and especially if you're going online. And you want to make sure that everyone in the business can understand and communicate in that way. So 5 things that you can do. Think about your audience. So who is it that you're talking to? And if your brand was a person sitting here, what would your brand, and you know what it might look like because you've got your logo, you've got your colors, but how would that person sound to your audience? Consider the different scenarios that you need to communicate within your brand. You know, some brands have to face into some really difficult things, and other brands, you know, can be more light. But think about the breadth of things, of situations you might need to speak in. It's like a normal person. You know, there are times when I'm really happy, there's times when I'm passionate, and there's times when I'm, you know, cranky, quite frankly. And I've got to make sure that their voice sounds authentic, even when you taking it through those different scenarios. I wouldn't choose more than 5. I would probably go with 3 words to describe your brand, whether it's, you know, clean, smart, friendly, passionate, driven. You know, you can see how those words would then start to come into the language, and use it and have a play with it and apply it to different mediums. So whether you're writing your copy for your web page or your social media posts, and then educate your team so it's consistent. It doesn't matter who's writing that post or who's answering the phone or whatever way it is, it's really consistent. And that's important message around brand anyway. Consistency is so important. Okay, the second one is how I've talked a lot about saying, don't talk about our products and services. And I know you're probably sitting there saying, how do I do that? If I'm not going to create a video, how do I go and do that? And what I wanted to show you here was what we create bridges. And we pull the market in and we create a bridge for you then at the right time to talk about your products and services. So this is what we call a selling bridge, and we're moving the client or customer from somewhere to somewhere. And when you map out, so I've used an example of buying a car here. When you purchase a car, there's lots of different steps and decisions and processes and products that they can try and sell you. And I know this because I went through this experience, and I left with a number of brochures, and I remember just thinking, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know this tire or whatever it is. And I did feel like suddenly I needed paint, and I needed protection, and I needed to be part of this group, and I needed all these different things. And I did feel quite sold to. So what we recommend doing is creating the journey. So instead of having 12 brochures, say, just create one brochure for your brand that explains that whole journey of your customer. So they could talk about, if they were selling me a car, they could talk about getting your car. So get your car on the road, keeping your car on the road. And you can see already different products would come into each of those, but you don't need to talk about the products initially. And enjoying your car. So then there's all the after sales and the clubs and all those things that you can be part of. And this is what we call the pull selling. So it's not just through a video. I just thought that was a good way of showing you. But the point I really want to make here is it's not about having your products and services at the front of everything. It's about pulling your customer in, explaining that emotional journey. And the last one I want to share is just some ideas of how do you have a different conversation. So if you're currently talking about your products and services, here's a little tool that we use with all of our clients, and these sessions go on for hours and they love it and they get really, really into it. And it's very simple. They're called what-if statements. So what a what-if statement does is it makes you talk about what you do in a different way and think about it in a different way. And I'm going to just talk you through some client examples. So White Dog Studio is a brilliant Pilates studio based in Yarraville in Melbourne. And when he came into the school, he could go out and talk about, I run a Pilates studio. It's amazing. He's fabulous, and as are all of his staff. But actually what we worked out was important to him is his who, which is people who are in the second half of their lives. And he wanted to make them, feel fabulous and fit and be healthy and have a great second half. So instead of saying, hi, I'm, White Dog Studio and I'm Pilates, he can use a what if statement like, well, what if we can make your second half your best half? And it just intrigues you and it goes, oh, tell me more about that, rather than, oh, I'm going to have to go and do Pilates 3 times a week or something. Another what if statement, this is an Italian restaurant in Sydney, Roma, second oldest Italian restaurant in Sydney, who is all about beautiful organic produce. And when he came to school, he was ready to sell his business. They were exhausted. It's a family business. And we got him connected back to his purpose, which was all around giving nature back the upper hand. So it was actually about nourishing Australia. And he wanted his kids to be able to eat in his restaurant every single day. And his nonna had said they can't because it wasn't organic and it wasn't good enough to be eating every day. So his is, what if we could give nature back the upper hand? Gig is a client. They were a global interactive group when they came into the school. I thought, well, what does that mean, global interactive group? And we renamed them to Gig. And what they are is actually a face-to-face sales company. So they train, they really invest in their people who are raising money through charities, who you would see in shopping centres, etc. And his is all about, well, what if we believed in the power of people? because he had seen so many great people come into his business who hadn't been given opportunities anywhere else. And he could see something really special in them, and he could see this potential and this opportunity. And he brought them in and trained them, and now they're these, you know, incredible salespeople and really proud of themselves. And he says, well, what if we believed in the power of everybody? And Elliot Wood, what if we could engineer a better society? So have a little think about your business. The only rule with this is don't talk about your products and services in there. As you can see, we don't talk about Pilates, we don't talk about Italian food, we don't talk about face-to-face sales, and we don't talk about the buildings that they work on. So I hope you can have a little bit of fun with that one. And to summarize, so I've just pulled out 5 of my key takeaways. I hope that you've been writing down key takeaways for yourself. Brand is the end-to-end of the whole revenue system. So brand's not just your logo. Start with the future brand in mind and then build from there. We're in an on and offline world, and we need to create that engaged audience and a community place where you can get your audience to be, so it doesn't keep costing you money to connect with your audience. We're now in the era of who, and we need to connect emotionally with our customers through brand, and to lead with your purpose and not with your products and services. So finally, would love to stay in touch with you as well, and I'd love to hear any feedback and thoughts that you have, or any ways that you're implementing the feedback from today. And I'm just going to check and see if I've got any more questions. Okay. How can I make sure messages are delivered in the tone of voice I want? I think that might have, oh yeah. How can you make sure messages are delivered? So make sure that you choose 3 words to describe the tone of your brand. And then what would be best, if you own the business, start trying to apply that tone to your writing, or you could even pay a copywriter just to do one little piece of work for you, and you can see how it aligns. And then when you're briefing anyone, so say you get someone to come in and do social media for you, you actually give them your guide. You give them it should be a whole brand guide, but you would have your tone of voice guide in there and explain, these are the words that, that describe my tone of voice, and this is how it's applied. And then a copywriter is very good at being able to then go and apply that. But just have fun with it. And that's it for the moment, I think, for questions. Denton, I'll pass back to you.
Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to go through all that presentation around brand. Thanks so much for sharing your tremendous insights into the world of brand. That was a fantastic session. I know many businesses on the line will have benefited from that straight away. I personally love learning all about their transition to the digital world. I loved looking at your brand both from an online and an offline perspective, and also the whole thing around the who, the purpose, the asset. And I really love some of those statements there around, you know, leading from your purpose, you know, the nonna one in the Italian restaurant. I thought that was such a beautiful story. So thank you for sharing that. So everyone, this is the 4th of our webinars, and we have another exciting session next week. So join us to learn all about search, about search engine optimization, and some of the things we've heard about today around your Google searching. And that's next Thursday at the same time, 7 p.m. We also have our previous webinars that we've recorded, so you can watch them in your own time or share them with a friend who might be in business as well. Just head to nab.com.au/business webinars to view them, and also to register for the upcoming search next week. If you like these sessions, please do let us know. There'll be a survey when you close out of this webinar, and we appreciate all of your feedback. If you'd like to see more of these sessions delivered, please let us know what topics you'd be interested in, and we're happy to cater for your needs going forward. Just as a reminder, if you'd like to connect with any one of my small business bankers nationally about your specific small business circumstances, please don't hesitate to call one of my small business bankers on 13 47 08. And it's option number 3 to get straight through to a banker. You can organise an appointment at the convenience of your location or a time that suits you over the phone, video, or face-to-face. And you can also visit our website anytime. Please feel free to share this content with your business network so that they can benefit from the content as well. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next session. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and do take care. Thank you.
Thanks.